Kyiv under the shadow of war, but with its sights set firmly on the future. Today, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky outlined a dramatic shift in his country's military strategy, exporting Ukrainian-made weapons abroad, not only to arm partners, but also to sustain Ukraine's own fight for survival. In his address, Zelensky emphasized the urgency of scaling up production inside Ukraine. He declared, "The most important thing is the production of our weapons. We have a clear idea of the quantities our army will need by the end of the year, as well as those needed for next year and those we must have in our warehouses to ensure our defence and maintain sufficient strength. Of course, this includes sufficient funding for the production of weapons here in Ukraine." Those words reflect more than logistics. They are a signal that Ukraine no longer sees itself merely as a recipient of Western arms. Instead, it is positioning itself as a producer, a supplier, and crucially, a seller. Zelensky then outlined how Kyiv plans to fund this shift. He said, "The funding gap for weapons production will be closed this year, including through the controlled export of certain types of our weapons. Thanks to these controlled exports, we will increase the production of drones for the front lines. We will have the necessary financial means. We can produce certain types of weapons, modern weapons, in quantities far greater than we can finance ourselves." Here, the pivot becomes clear. Ukraine is not only building to defend itself, but also exporting to fund its defence. Drones, the very tools that have given Kyiv an edge on the battlefield, are at the heart of this plan. By selling to partners abroad, Zelensky hopes to guarantee that frontline brigades never run short. But Ukraine will not sell indiscriminately. The president stressed priorities. We have certain types of weapons in much larger quantities than we actually need today in Ukraine. Examples include naval drones, which the world is counting on and of which we have a surplus, as well as anti-tank weapons and certain other types of weapons. In other words, the first priority is the front line, supplying our brigades. The second priority is our Ukrainian arsenals, and only third come controlled exports of this type. Naval drones, once secret projects, have become globally recognized symbols of Ukraine's ingenuity. They have disrupted Russia's dominance in the Black Sea. Now, Zelensky is framing them as exports, weapons tested in real war, sought after abroad and produced in excess at home. To formalize this move, Zelensky promised new structures. He said, "In 2 weeks, a concept will be presented, 3 new export platforms. The first platform is for export and interaction with the United States. The second platform is for our European partners. And the third is for other partners around the world who are also interested in Ukrainian weapons and from whom Ukraine has received various forms of support. It is essential that they also help us so that we can help them." These 3 platforms reveal Kyiv's strategy: build institutional pathways to sell arms, not just ad hoc deals. For Washington, Europe, and other allies, this means that supporting Ukraine could also mean buying from Ukraine, a way of embedding Kyiv deeper into the defense ecosystems of the West. But Zelensky was also sharp in his warning. He declared, "At present, it is Ukrainians, Ukrainian companies, and the Ukrainian army that have one of the richest experiences in modern warfare, especially with regard to advanced weapons and technologies. Ukraine will not engage in armed charity and will not help those who are indifferent to its fate. We are ready to work with those who have truly supported us and our independence." The message was unmistakable. Ukraine's new arms industry will not be a free handout. There will be no charity for nations sitting on the sidelines. Kyiv will do business only with those who have stood beside it since February 2022. Behind this announcement lies a transformation few predicted at the war's beginning. When Russian troops first crossed the border, Ukraine was almost entirely dependent on Western stockpiles. HIMARS rockets, Javelin missiles, and Patriot batteries became lifelines. But over time, Ukrainian engineers, entrepreneurs, and military workshops began producing at scale, turning necessity into innovation. Naval drones are a prime example. Designed under conditions of blockade and constant bombardment, they proved capable of striking Russia's Black Sea fleet. These systems, once seen as experimental, are now in surplus, enough to supply Ukraine's needs and still have leftovers for export. The economic logic is as important as the military one. Every drone exported abroad could fund dozens more for Ukraine's brigades. Every anti-tank weapon sold could mean more shells on the front lines. Controlled exports thus become a circular system. International buyers fuel domestic war production, ensuring Ukraine's fight is financially sustainable. But the move also raises pressing questions. Will the United States, home to the world's largest arms industry, welcome Ukraine as a competitor or bristle at the idea of Kyiv entering global defence markets? Will European capitals, eager to revive their own industries, embrace Ukrainian arms or guard their procurement budgets jealously? And beyond the West, will nations in Africa, Asia and the Middle East turn to Ukraine as a supplier, choosing Kyiv's battle-tested systems over Russian or Chinese alternatives? For Zelensky, the gamble is necessary. Western funding has grown increasingly uncertain. In Washington, aid packages are tied up in political battles. In Europe, financial fatigue is real. By exporting weapons, Ukraine seeks to reduce dependence and prove that it can sustain itself, at least partially, through its own production. Still, the risks are obvious. War is far from over. Every weapon exported is one not immediately available at home. Balancing the priorities of frontline defence, domestic stockpiles and exports will test Ukraine's discipline and capacity. Yet the broader vision is unmistakable. Zelensky is attempting to reposition Ukraine not just as a nation under siege, but as an emerging power in the global arms market. His message to allies is twofold: continue to support us, and in return, we will arm you with technologies honed in the harshest battlefield of the 21st century. From the trenches of Donbass to the workshops of Kyiv, Ukraine's war effort is no longer only about survival, it is about transformation. Controlled exports, carefully balanced between immediate needs and international partnerships, may become Ukraine's next weapon, not just against Russia, but against dependency itself. And so, as Kyiv unveils plans for 3 new export platforms and prepares to launch weapons onto the global market, the world will be watching. Ukraine is not simply defending its sovereignty, it is reshaping its place in the global order, one drone, one contract and one export at a time.